What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with your GC Cup preview for the Northern Trust. And frankly, what very may well be the last GC Cup update of the season. More on that in a second. But we are in the playoffs. Okay, so we've qualified for the GC Cup playoffs, similar to the FedEx Cup. It is the top 125 players advance. So we are in, and we have a crack at this week at the Northern Trust. I'll show you where we stand in a second, but we're going to need a big week to stay in this thing. So let's look back at the Wyndham Championship for a second and see how that went. My lineup did, this is kind of what it's been all year. Is I've hovered around that cut line. I've either, just missed the cut. I've lived a lot in like the 70s and 80s. I've lived a lot in the 50s and 60s. So I've either just missed the cut, or I've made the cut and earned like 5 points, and just not enough to really put a dent in this thing. So we ended up going with Paul Casey, 25% owned. He finished T13. Lucas Glover, also 25% owned. He finished T72. Russ Henley, 12% owned, T31. Andrew Landry, 4.4% owned. He was our single digit guy. T19. Ches Reavy, 12%. T48. Doc Redman, 15%. Missed the cut. So looking back at this is a pretty good composition for me. Two fairly chalky guys, or very chalky guys, 25% in Casey and Glover. Three of the mid-teen guys, Redman, Reavy, and Henley at 12, 12, and 15, which is that's probably a good range to live in. I was pretty stoked to see Reavy at 12-6. Played well for a while, just kind of got to the weekend and never got anything going, but I thought I had a lot of leverage on him for a guy who had a lot of upside in this tournament. Landry comes in at 4.4%, ends up being one of my better finishers. Yeah, actually my highest scoring golfer. Finished T19, which was 6 spots behind Paul Casey, but scored one more Draftkings point. So that's our highest scoring golfer was our lowest owned golfer, which is obviously a pretty good pick, assuming the rest of your lineup is not complete garbage. But this was in a pretty good shape, and I'll pull this up for you. If you're watching on the video, you'll see what I'm looking at here with my 6 golfers on Sunday, and every single one of them backed up, which is not going to be a good combination for you to find success on DraftKings, for example, where Casey drops 8 spots, Landry drops 9, Henley drops 6, Reavy dropped 14, and Lucas Glover couldn't go down much more. He went down 2 spots from 70th to 72nd. So when all 5 of your guys that you have left back up on the weekend or on Sunday, you're in for a really tough spot. And speaking of tough spots, let me show you where we currently stand in this thing, and you will probably agree that this is likely our last event of the season. So I mentioned that 125 number. So as I scroll down, I mentioned it last week. Our boy Eric Patterson did make the cut, 124th. He just snuck in. And Josh, JB from Gups Corner, was actually the bubble boy, 126. So sorry, JB. But here we go. We are in 98th. So basically, over the course of the last 6 weeks, we have earned 12.8 points. Not even remotely close enough. We were in probably 70th when that 5-week stretch started, and we've just kind of dropped down a few spots every single week. So we sit here in 98th. Just like the PGA Tour, we're going to need to get to the top 70 this week. If it was the old PGA rules, we could get into the top 100 and then go to the 70 and then go to the 30, but not this year. So we've got to get to 70, which is at least already, as things stand right now, 559 points on the season. We have 442. So we are, what is that, 117 away from that spot, and that assumes no one else moves. So 117 points is basically, 5th place is worth 120. So we're basically going to need, we're going to need more than that, because guys are going to also move up. So we probably need at least a 4th place finish, which would give us 150 points. that still might not cut it, depending on what everyone else does in that area and the way it shakes out. 150, let's see, where would 150 shoot us up to? So let's add another 30 points to this. So 589 would put us in like 62nd right now. So that might do it. Depending on how those guys in the middle finish there, 150 could do it. 210 certainly will, and anything above that will. So we need a 4th place finish or better this week, or we have played our last GC Cup event of the year. So that's what we're looking at. So what did I go with for this event that we need such a high finish? And here it is. Before I read it out loud to you, to me, it was just throw my hands up in the air. It's been a really bad 5-week stretch. We've had bad runs this season, have not done nearly what we would have hoped to have done in this contest. And I just kind of threw my hands up and said, I don't care about ownership. I don't care about being the smartest guy in the room. I don't care about any of that. Let me just go grab like the hottest guys, or guys that are playing well, or guys that have really good pedigrees, right? Like, I don't care about ownership. I had 2 versions of this lineup. One of them was mostly the same, but it included Brooks, and I had to drop down into the 6s and get a couple of those guys. I played that as my core for core cascading this week, because it was actually the way the salaries were tiered, it was better to cascade. But what I've decided to go with is starting at the top with Justin Rose 9,600. Just to me, he's one of the safer guys over 9,000. He almost always returns value. We don't see a lot of him. When we do, he plays really well. Webb Simpson, 9,400. He is seriously, he might be the hottest golfer on the planet. He's got 3 second-place finishes in his last 5 starts. I don't care how high owned he is. Billy Horschel will probably also be very highly owned, 8,000. Gearing up, playing well the last couple weeks, shows up in the playoffs. I'll also throw Joaquin Niemann in there as well, who I imagine will also be popular, 7,500, but just continues to knock on the door, a bunch of top 20s recently. And then the 2 that probably, I shouldn't even say that, because Gary Woodland is 7,800. He's probably also going to be, this might be the highest aggregate ownership number that we have on a lineup all season long. Gary Woodland is 7,800 bucks. He has missed a couple of cuts recently, hasn't played well, but long-term form, he is a much better golfer than the other guys in the $7,800 range. And then the guy that might set me apart a little bit is Matt Wolff. So $7,700. To me, I really like his skill set in Draftkings scoring specifically. The way he's able to garner bonuses, the way he's able to make birdies, potentially eagles. A little, wet behind the ears, but we'll see. So I think he might be able to differentiate me a little bit here. So that's the lineup that we're rolling out. It might be the last lineup that we roll out this year, but either way, it's been fun. If it is the last one, I'll try to make a recap next week or some point to kind of show you where we finished up. And if we somehow find a way to get into the top 4 and make it to the BMW Championship, we'll do this again same time next week. So let me know what you think. I really like this contest. I'll be exploring some other contests from Gups Corner, and maybe we'll do our own for next season. We might trial run some things in the swing season, and then maybe unleash them for January. But all fun stuff, nothing too serious. Anyway, tweet me. It's at RickRunGood, or leave a comment below. Good luck this week. See ya.